The siege of Kepler Station had entered its third month. Commander Zethal watched his troops' morale crumble as fast as their ammunition. The swarm, an insectoid race that attacked in endless waves, had them surrounded. No reinforcements. No escape. No hope. Sir, his lieutenant's mandibles clicked nervously. We're down to energy packs for maybe 2 more days. The swarm just keeps coming. Zethal's forearms hung limp. The Galactic Defense Force had written them off. 3 million soldiers and civilians trapped, waiting to be overrun and devoured. Then the proximity alarm screamed. More swarm. Zethal asked wearily. No, sir. Single ship. Configuration unknown. It's broadcasting human music. Through the viewports, they watched a battered cargo freighter crash through the swarm blockade like it was made of tissue paper. No shields. No weapons visible. Just pure velocity and what sounded like ancient earth metal music blaring across all frequencies. The ship smashed into the station's docking bay, grinding to a halt in a shower of sparks. Zethal's security forces surrounded it, weapons raised. The cargo door exploded outward. 30 humans emerged, and Zethal's heart sank. They wore mismatched armor, some of it held together with tape. Their weapons looked like they'd been assembled from spare parts. One soldier had "Make them pay" written in what appeared to be blood on his helmet. This is the reinforcement? Zethal muttered. The human leader, a scarred woman missing her left eye, saluted sloppily. Sergeant Kate Reaper Morrison, Earth Volunteer Corps. Heard you folks needed help. 30 soldiers? The swarm numbers in the millions. Morrison grinned. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Yeah, about that. You've been fighting them wrong. Wrong? We've held defensive protocols. Maintained disciplined fire lines. Exactly. Morrison turned to her troops. All right, psychos. Remember, they hunt by pheromones. Miller, you brought the juice. A hulking human held up containers of something that made Zethal's sensors scream warnings. Concentrated swarm queen pheromones, Sarge. Synthetic, but they won't know the difference. What are you planning? Zethal demanded. The swarm's a hive mind, right? They protect queens above everything. Morrison's grin widened. So we're gonna make them think there's queens everywhere. Before Zethal could object, the humans were moving. They didn't hold defensive positions. They charged into the station's damaged sections toward the swarm. Are they insane? His lieutenant gasped. The humans painted pheromones on walls, on debris, on captured swarm corpses. Then they started killing, but not cleanly. They wounded swarm soldiers and let them retreat, carrying the false queen scent back to their hive. Within hours, chaos erupted in the swarm ranks. Soldiers turned on each other, detecting queens everywhere. Their perfect coordination shattered as different groups tried to protect different pheromone sources. But the humans weren't done. Phase 2, Morrison announced, covered in green swarm blood. They're confused. Now we make them afraid. The swarm doesn't feel fear, Zethal protested. Everything feels fear. You just gotta find the right button. The humans stopped using energy weapons. They switched to primitive projectile weapons, blades, improvised explosives. They didn't kill cleanly anymore. They maimed. They let wounded swarm soldiers escape to spread panic. They hung swarm corpses in grotesque displays. One human, laughing maniacally, had rigged speakers to broadcast the death screams of swarm soldiers on repeat. Another had somehow figured out how to jam their hive mind frequency with human death metal. This is barbaric, Zethal said, watching the displays. This is psychological warfare, Morrison corrected. Your civilized tactics don't work because the swarm doesn't think like you. They're bugs? You know what scares bugs? Bigger, meaner bugs. The humans painted their armor with swarm blood, attached severed swarm limbs to their suits. They moved through the corridors like nightmares, never where the swarm expected, always attacking from impossible angles. Miller had somehow tamed a swarm warrior pumped full of queen pheromones and stimulants. He rode it into battle, using it to tear apart its own kind. How? Zethal asked, stunned. Humans have been breaking animals since we learned to walk, Miller laughed. These are just bigger horses with more teeth. By the 5th day, the swarm's behavior had completely changed. They no longer attacked in coordinated waves. Scouts refused to enter sectors where humans had been spotted. Some groups had turned cannibalistic, confused by the pheromone chaos. Morrison found Zethal in the command center. Time for Phase 3. There's more. Always leave them a way out, she said. But make staying scarier than running. The humans opened a corridor to space, then launched their most horrific assault yet. They used flamethrowers, primitive but terrifying to the swarm's instincts. They broadcast subsonic frequencies that triggered primal flee responses. They released toxic smoke that wasn't lethal but caused excruciating pain to swarm respiratory systems. The swarm broke. For the first time in recorded history, a swarm hive fled rather than fight to the last. They poured through the escape route, trampling each other in their desperation to escape the human monsters. Within 12 hours, Kepler Station was clear. Zethal found Morrison and her troops in the mess hall laughing over contraband alcohol. They looked like they'd bathed in war crimes. 30 soldiers, he said quietly. You broke a siege of millions with 30 soldiers. Morrison shrugged. Humans didn't become apex predators by fighting fair. We did it by fighting smart. And mean. Really, really mean. The Galactic Defense Force will want to study your tactics. Sure, Morrison stood, stretching. But they won't use them. Too uncivilized. That's why you'll always need us. Us. Humans. When your pretty wars with rules and honor fail, you'll call us. Because we remember what war really is. Her remaining I was cold. It's not about being right. It's about being the last one standing. As the human ship departed, Zethal's lieutenant approached. Sir, should we report their methods? Zethal looked at the station full of living soldiers and civilians. At the fleeing swarm who would spread word of the human horrors to their species. Report that the humans saved us, he said finally. The details, the galaxy doesn't need to know how the monsters fight. But he knew they'd call the humans again. They always would. Because sometimes you needed your own monsters. Hashtag the war was lost until ruthless human soldiers showed up. The siege of Kepler Station had entered its third month. Commander Zethal watched his troops' morale crumble as fast as their ammunition. The swarm, an insectoid race that attacked in endless waves, had them surrounded. No reinforcements. No escape. No hope. Sir, his lieutenant's mandibles clicked nervously. We're down to energy packs for maybe 2 more days. The swarm just hashtag the war was lost until ruthless human soldiers showed up. The siege of Kepler Station had entered its third month. Commander Zethal watched his troops' morale crumble as fast as their ammunition. The swarm, an insectoid race that attacked in endless waves, had them surrounded. No reinforcements. No escape. No hope. Sir, his lieutenant's mandibles clicked nervously. We're down to energy packs for maybe 2 more days. The swarm just keeps coming. Zethal's forearms hung limp. The Galactic Defense Force had written them off. 3.